Tell me one thing. If you stripped away every role, everything you're supposed to be for other people, everything that's expected of you, everything you're obligated to do, who's left? What's left? And most importantly, do you like that person? Do you like the life you're building for them? I'm not waiting for an answer right now, but something tells me you already felt something in your chest when I asked that. Maybe a slight tightening, maybe something like recognition, like when someone says out loud what you've been thinking for a long time, but never quite put into words so directly. That's exactly what's happening today. Not for everyone, but for those of you who came here. Absolutely. Today, the sun moves into Pisces, and before you think this is just another astrological event you can scroll past, give me a minute, because what's happening in the sky right now has a very specific effect on a very specific feeling that a lot of people have been carrying for quite some time. The feeling that they've somehow drifted off course, that they're living a life that isn't entirely their own, that somewhere between who they were and who they became, something important got lost. And today's energy isn't anxiety about that. It's something much quieter and much deeper. It's a moment where you can finally look at yourself honestly, without rushing, without defenses. Just look. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. That matters. The sun moves through all 12 signs over the course of a year, and Pisces is the finale, the final chapter before everything resets with Aries in the spring. And like any finale, this time carries something conclusive, something that makes you look back, not with sadness, but with that particular clarity that comes when a chapter is drawing to a close and you start to understand what it was really about. Astrologically, Pisces is connected to intuition, to emotional depth, to things that can't be explained rationally, but that you know with your entire being. And when the sun enters this sign, it's as if it switches on an inner receiver in people, the one that's usually drowned out by the noise of everyday life. Deadlines, notifications, other people's expectations, your own fears. But today, it's a little louder, and if you sit quietly, you'll hear it. But let me show you what this actually looks like in real life, because I don't want this to stay abstract. There are people who have spent years building a career that looks right from the outside, a good position, stable income, the respect of colleagues, and everything seems to be in order. But there's one feeling that won't go away, quiet, persistent, like background noise. The feeling that this isn't theirs, that they didn't come here because they wanted to, but because that's how things worked out, because it was logical, because someone told them they were good at it, and they believed that was enough. Today, something opens for that person, not necessarily a big decision, not necessarily a crisis, just a moment of silence in which the truth sounds a little louder than usual, and that truth says, you know what you actually want. You've always known. You just let other voices be louder than your own. Or picture this, someone who's been standing at a crossroads for a long time. Stay or leave. Take the risk or choose safety. Start something new or keep going with what exists. And they've been turning it over in their head so many times, weighing it, analyzing it, asking for advice, that they've almost forgotten there's a difference between thinking about a decision and knowing the answer. And the answer, it's already there. Somewhere beneath all those layers of analysis and fear. Today, that layer gets a little thinner, and through it begins to show what the person actually feels, not what they think they're supposed to feel. That is Pisces season in its purest form, not manipulation, not illusion, but access to yourself. To that part of yourself you maybe haven't visited in a long time. I want to talk about something that often gets in the way of people using this moment, and that's the fear of being too late. The fear that if you're realizing now that you've been heading in the wrong direction, it means you've wasted something irreplaceable, that you should have figured this out sooner, that the window has closed. This fear is very human and very understandable, but it's almost always inaccurate. Pisces, as the final sign, is deeply connected to the theme of completion and release, and one of the deepest understandings this time carries is that realizations come exactly when you're ready to receive them. Not earlier, not later. And the fact that you're arriving at a certain understanding today, even if it feels like it should have happened 5 years ago, that's not being late. That's the exact right moment. Because only now do you have everything you need for this understanding to actually change something. There's a concept in psychology, the moment of readiness, when a person matures into a certain understanding, and no matter how important the information is, no matter how obvious it seems from the outside, a person can't truly receive it until they're ready. But when they are ready, even the simplest phrase, heard on an ordinary day, can change everything. Today is a day of that readiness for many of you, and the fact that you're here already says something. Let me paint a few more pictures, specific, real, because I want you to be able to see yourself in this. Imagine someone in their mid-30s. They've built everything they were supposed to build, the job, the apartment, the relationship, some kind of social status. The checklist is done, but there's a feeling, and they're ashamed to talk about it because it sounds ungrateful, a feeling that something is missing, not materially, not outwardly, but inside. Some part of themselves that isn't participating in this life, that's waiting somewhere, that remembers who this person wanted to be before they started completing the checklist. Today, this person might receive a hint, not in the form of a revelation from above, but in the form of a moment, a song in their headphones that suddenly brings them to tears, a photo from an old phone that makes them stop, a conversation with someone they barely know in which something resonates so strongly it becomes uncomfortable. These small moments are not coincidences, they're signals, and today they're worth noticing. Or a person who has spent years devoted to other people's dreams, supporting a partner, raising children, carrying a project someone else believes in. All of this out of love, out of sincerity, and that's beautiful. But somewhere along the way, their own dreams got quieter, then quieter still. And then the person stopped even remembering what they were. And today, they suddenly remember. Just like that. In the middle of an ordinary day. And this remembering isn't a source of pain. It's an invitation. Pisces asks, and you? Not as a mother, not as a partner, not as a colleague, but you. What do you want? That question, that is the heart of today's energy. Now, I want to say something practical, because a realization is not an action plan. And I don't want you to rush into making big decisions just because something stirred in you. That's not how it works. What opens up today is clarity, not instructions. Clarity is a precious thing, far more precious than it seems. Because most people live in a constant fog of their own doubts, expectations, fears, and rarely have access to what they actually think and feel about their own life. Today, that access is more open. What do you do with it? Very simple. Write it down. If today a thought comes, a feeling, an image, a memory, something that stops you even for a second, write it down. Don't analyze it immediately. Don't judge it. Just record it. Give it existence outside your head where it can get lost again under the noise. Because here's what happens with most people. They have a moment of genuine clarity. It comes quiet, clear, important. And immediately they think, that was just a mood. That's not realistic. I'll think about that later. And later doesn't come. Or when it does, the clarity has already dissolved back into the next meeting, the next message, the next problem that needs solving. And all that's left is a vague feeling that something was there. But what exactly, you can't quite remember. Don't let that happen today. If something comes, give it space. There's another theme I want to touch on, connected to how Pisces season affects relationships, not just romantic ones, any of them. Because the direction of your life isn't only about career and dreams, it's also about the people you choose to share it with. Today, some of you will look at certain relationships in your life differently. Maybe you'll suddenly feel how important someone is to you, someone you haven't told in a long time. Maybe the opposite. You'll feel that a certain connection is held together only by habit, not genuine choice. Maybe you'll realize there's something important you've wanted to say to someone for a long time and keep putting off, and that there's no reason to keep waiting. None of these realizations require immediate action, but each one is worth being heard. Pisces is a sign that understands not everything can be explained by logic, that some things are simply felt. That intuition isn't a whim or a weakness, but a tool, one of the most precise ones you have. And in this season, especially today, that tool works better than usual. Trust it a little more than usual. I want to speak to one more group of people, because I know they're here. These are people who have a dream, specific, alive, real, but they keep it very quiet. Maybe because they're afraid of ridicule, or because they don't fully believe themselves that it's possible, or because once someone important said something skeptical, and that word grew into them and became part of their inner voice. For these people, today is especially important to listen to what's stirring inside, because Pisces energy doesn't ask if you have a plan. It doesn't ask whether others approve. It asks only one thing. Is this true for you? Is this genuinely yours? And if the answer is yes, that's already enough. That's already a foundation, not to throw everything away and leap into the unknown right today, but to stop justifying yourself for the fact that this dream exists at all. Let me tell you something before we reach the end about what these moments of clarity actually look like in reality, because people often wait for something grand. They think an important realization should arrive with music, with tears, with some dramatic turning point. But most often, it doesn't work that way. Most often, it looks like this. You're washing dishes and suddenly you realize you haven't thought about what actually brings you joy in over a year. You're driving and a song on the radio reminds you of a version of yourself you haven't thought about in a long time. You're talking with someone you barely know, and they say something simple. And that simple phrase stays with you for the rest of the day. You wake up in the middle of the night, and the first thought, before the usual internal noise switches on, is a thought about something you want to do, or someone you want to call, or a place you want to go. These moments are not small things. They're signals. And in Pisces season, and especially today, they're more frequent and clearer than usual. All that's required of you is to notice them, not brush them off, not tell yourself it's not serious, but simply notice and give them space. Because here's the thing, direction in life is rarely determined by one big decision. Far more often, it's assembled from dozens of small moments in which you either listen to yourself or you don't. Either trust your feeling or put it off again. And over time, these small choices, to listen or not to listen, add up to something large, into character, into direction, into who you become. Today is one of those small choices, to listen to yourself or not. The sun in Pisces isn't about detaching from reality and sinking into dreams. It's about bringing a little more of yourself into your reality, about the distance between what you feel inside and how you live outside becoming a little smaller, about the gap between the person you are and the person you're living as, beginning to close. That gap exists in many people, and it doesn't arise from bad intentions or weakness of character. It arises from gradual compromises that seemed reasonable at the time, from fears that seemed justified, from other people's expectations that seemed more important than your own desires. And because all of this happened slowly, so slowly that at some point you even stopped noticing how far you drifted. But today, you're noticing, or beginning to notice. And that's already a change. I want to end with this. There's a particular freedom in simply knowing, not in having a plan, not in having already done something, but in knowing itself, knowing what you want, knowing what matters to you, knowing which direction your heart leans, even if your mind doesn't yet know how to get there. That knowing, it isn't loud. It doesn't demand attention. But when you have it, it quietly and steadily begins to change everything. The way you make small decisions, what you spend your energy on, who you let close, what you're willing to tolerate anymore, yeah, and what you're not. Today, with the sun in Pisces, that knowing is a little more available to you than usual. The door is open a little wider. The silence is a little deeper. The signal is a little clearer. All I'm asking you to do today is give yourself 5 minutes of genuine silence. No phone, no music, no tasks, just 5 minutes. And ask yourself, setting aside everything I have to do, what do I actually want? Where do I actually want to go? And who do I actually want to be? Don't judge the answer. Don't evaluate whether it's realistic. Just hear it. If something resonated with you today, a thought, a feeling, a moment of clarity, I really want to hear about it in the comments. Not because you need to have a ready answer, but because there's something important in naming it out loud, in sharing it, in giving it form. And you might be surprised how many people in this community are experiencing exactly what you're experiencing. If this kind of conversation, slow, honest, unhurried, resonates with you, subscribe. Pisces season is just beginning, and there are many more conversations like this ahead, because this is a time that has a lot to say if you're ready to listen. Take care of yourself today and allow yourself to hear what you've known for a long time.